It's incredible to see all of you here in person. What an amazing turnout to honor Nancy. So many of you and your faces, your lives have been so intricately linked with Nancy's. And so Nancy is with us. She's on Zoom with her family, and she's just so delighted that we're gathering to host this lecture with Harvey Fineberg. This is an incredible moment that we've been waiting for. We are so grateful and privileged to be celebrating this inaugural lecture in this beautiful auditorium, in this gorgeous building. And Nancy had a critical role in helping manifest that and helping vision us in our new building and all that happens in the walls. So I'm excited to announce that this is really just the first lecture, that we are announcing the Nancy Adler lectureship. And every year we will now have an incredible, diverse scholar who is illuminating the field of health and social determinants and is making progress toward innovative social interventions here with us in this room for the Nancy Adler lectureship. And we're so grateful to the LSP Family Fund for their very generous gift toward this lectureship. So you'll hear more about that through email. My name's Alyssa Eppel. My life has been intertwined with Nancy's for 30 years. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Nancy doing what I do. I'll be the brief MC. So let me just wrap up with, you'll now be welcomed by our phenomenal UCSF leadership who has been so supportive through the decades of Nancy Adler and her work bringing the science of social determinants to UCSF. So I'd like to start by welcoming our phenomenal chair, Matthew State, the Obendorf Chair and Professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Science, who is joining us. Welcome, Matthew. Let's see. See that? There he is. Oh, hello. Look at these wonderful people.
Welcome, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Welcome to the inaugural Nancy Adler lectureship. I'm so sorry that I was not able to be there in person today, but it is wonderful to know that so many of you are able to join via Zoom and in our remarkable new space to celebrate a truly remarkable faculty member. I'm going to keep my comments extremely brief as we have so many colleagues and friends today honoring Nancy and helping us launch this lectureship. I have to say that it's rare indeed, even at UCSF, to be able to honor a faculty member who's launched an entire field, from her editing of the first textbook on health psychology to her decades of leadership of the UCSF Center for Health and Community. No one has been more influential in advancing the notion that contemporary medicine has to address the behavioral, environmental, social, and cultural aspects of health and healthcare delivery. Nancy has inspired generations of trainees and mentees, produced groundbreaking scholarship, contributed in countless ways to the academic community at UCSF, and extended her global impact through her work at the National Academy of Medicine, the MacArthur Foundation, and many others. To say on a more personal note, despite all of the demands on her time, Nancy has been a generous and trusted advisor to me from the moment that I arrived as chair in 2013. She was instrumental in elaborating a vision for the future of the department, and I dare say that we would not be convening in the gorgeous new state-of-the-art Nancy Fineberg Psychiatry building were it not for her support and her wise counsel. We're so fortunate, and it feels so fitting that we are launching this lectureship here today that will recognize in perpetuity her many contributions to science, to UCSF, and to the community. Thank you all for coming. Now I'm privileged to welcome to the podium our Chancellor, Sam Hawgood.
Thank you, Matt, and it's a privilege and an honor for me to be here to welcome you all and say a few words ahead of the inaugural Nancy Adler lectureship. I'll start with a statement that many people have assured me is an accurate statement. That is that Dr. Nancy Adler is one of the great social scientists of her generation. We were so fortunate that she chose UCSF to start her career, where she honed her skills, and then over the last decade, as Matt just said, has transformed the field of health psychiatry and social determinants, or so some people tell me I now have to say social drivers of health. She's been an extraordinary leader and continues to create a legacy that will live forever here at UCSF. Nancy's energy and excitement and intellectual capacity means that she has contributed far beyond the boundaries of UCSF, including the National Academies of Medicine, where she's been one of the stellar contributors, and it's so fitting that Dr. Harvey Fineberg will be the inaugural lecturer, but also with the MacArthur Fellows, the Robert Wood Johnson Society, and many government agencies where she's made major contributions. Now, others will say more about the what of Nancy's work, body of work over the last few decades. I would like to just make a couple of comments of the how. And observing Nancy as a leader here at UCSF has been a great privilege and a great learning experience for me as to how to show up as a leader. And I've thought about what couple of words would best describe my experience of Nancy as a leader. And I would say, number one, dignified. Her approach is exemplified by, I had the opportunity of having dinner several years ago with Sally Jewell, who was then the Secretary of the Interior in the Obama administration. And after a few glasses of wine, I asked her some questions about what it was like to serve on the cabinet. And she said her experience was that there were two types of leaders. One who led because of the power of their position, and others who lead by the influence that they can create in their position. And Nancy clearly is of the latter variety. Through her quiet empathy, her attachment to the values of her personal values and the values of the organizations that she serves, she just got stuff done because people respected and trusted her in the dignified way she went about leadership. I'm sure Julia will be able to correct me. I never heard Nancy upset or yell at anyone, but I suspect that's not entirely true. The second word that comes to mind when I observe Nancy's leadership is determined. She would decide what the right thing, not only for her to do, but the right thing for the institution, for UCSF to do. And then she would stick with it in a very dignified way, but she would stick with it. And eventually she would get her way. This building being an example of that, but more importantly in the programs and being the conscience of UCSF in many ways to make sure we stayed on the right path. So I'm thrilled to be here this morning. Look forward to Harvey's lecture. And I'll end with a quote from Nelson Mandela, who said, "A good heart and a good mind are a formidable combination." Nancy, you are formidable. Thank you.
Those of you who are here will have a chance afterward to have a reception on the fourth floor, but also to say a personal hello to Nancy through our videographer, as well as how she's affected your life. So we hope you'll do that. It is my deep pleasure to have here and introduce Talmadge King, our Dean of the School of Medicine and also the Vice Chancellor of Medical Affairs at UCSF Health, another champion of the issues that we care so deeply about. Thank you, Talmadge.
So thank you very much. So you're going to hear a lot about Nancy, and they gave me 120 seconds to talk about her role, and what I've decided to talk about her is her role in the School of Medicine. So I've known Nancy for 2 decades now, and she has contributed deeply and broadly to medical student education, from admissions to curriculum design, curriculum oversight, and teaching. She played a pivotal role in reimagining our curriculum. Under her leadership, the culture and behavior theme was conceptualized, funded, and implemented, shaping the education of countless medical professionals. Her mentorship of junior faculty, fellows, and students stand out in particular. As the head of the UCSF UCB site for the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation Health and Society Scholars Program, she offers scholars a platform to delve deep into the health determinants, emphasizing the links between biology, behavioral, and environmental factors. Nancy's many UCSF awards is a testament to her diverse and profound contributions. These include the 1995 Chancellor's Award for the Advancement of Women, the 2009 Lifetime Achievement in Mentoring Award, the 2014 Holly Smith Award for Exceptional Service to the UCSF School of Medicine, and the 2015 Faculty Research Lecturer in Clinical Sciences. When Nancy began her tenure at UCSF in 1977, little attention was given to the differences in morbidity and mortality associated with socioeconomic conditions. Through her leadership at the UCSF Center for Health and Community, she has been a bridge between disciplines, ensuring that questions we ask resonate with the real world health challenges faced by our communities. Nancy's passion for health equity extends beyond the classroom. Her research, particularly in women's and reproductive health, has been monumental. Her insights on abortion have not only enlightened the academic community, but has steered legislation and judicial decisions. So in conclusion, I'm grateful to extend my deepest gratitude to Nancy. Nancy, thank you for your unwavering commitment to UCSF, to advancing health equity, and for nurturing a community that celebrates diversity in every form. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Talmadge. It is my honor for all of us to welcome Lisa Stone Pritzker, the founder and chair of the Lisa Stone Pritzker Family Fund. Lisa's enormous power for vision for health equity, particularly for women and families, is matched by her enormous heart and compassion. She has been our biggest supporter of Nancy's Center for Health and Community for decades. We're so grateful to her. Thank you, Lisa.
I want to make sure you can hear me. Okay, good. It is so moving to gather for this lecture, and I know I speak for everyone here when I say we are proud to be a part of the Nancy Adler team. I met Nancy decades ago, and she made a very deep impression on me. She was a breath of fresh air, incredibly smart, and very kind. As we got to know each other better, I learned about her fascinating work and her extraordinary gift for assembling the right people to work on the right projects. Today's esteemed gathering is proof that this skill Nancy possesses has never wavered. Others have spoken, maybe will keep speaking to Nancy's tremendous body of work, but I want to underscore just one thing about this work. It is driven by Nancy's deep humanity, her passion for improving the lives of children and families, and her focus on addressing the emotional and social needs of others in order to address overall health. I've been so proud to watch the Center for Health and Community deepen and expand its work. Every new revelation, publication, honor, and award has contributed greatly to this field. I've been very much looking forward to this day, and I want to extend a warm welcome and a thank you to everybody here.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It is now our distinct pleasure to get to hear from Julia Adler Milstein, who we're so lucky to have at UCSF. She's a professor of medicine, the chief of the Division of Clinical Informatics and Digital Transformation, and the director of the Center for Improvement of Research. Thank you.
So these are words that Nancy, Mom, has asked me to share on her behalf to welcome you today. Treasured colleagues, family, and friends, I'm thrilled to participate in today's celebration of the inaugural Nancy Adler Lecture in Social and Behavioral Sciences. While I'm sorry to not be there in person, I'm happy that my daughter, Julia, is able to channel my warm sentiments and appreciation. I'm joining you in spirit and watching the event, grateful that technology makes it possible to share this day with you locally as well as globally. And maybe if we can take a minute, the camera's going to pan the room and we can all just do a little wave so she can see all of the amazing people who are here. And we can have Zoom waves too. For this special day, we celebrate our campus leaders, faculty, staff, and students of the Center for Health and Community, and others who have made this event possible. The existence of this building reflects Lisa Stone Pritzker's broad vision in crafting a beautiful physical and energetic space. It is in this building, new research, training, clinical and population health practice and services will help so many around the world. I am especially excited that Harvey Fineberg is the inaugural lecturer. His own career shows a deep commitment and personal dedication to advancing the social and behavioral sciences, and his friendship has meant so much to me over the years. Finally, I also express my deepest thanks to the planning committee, my dear colleagues at the Center for Health and Community, Alyssa Epple, Eric Prather, and Laura Gottlieb, and with special recognition of Dina Frey, as well as my friend and colleague, Claire Brindis. Thank you all for attending. I am truly honored and appreciative of your engagement in CHC and this event.
Thank you, Julia. Now we get to hear from Eric Prather, one of Nancy's early mentees, who is the interim director of the Center for Health and Community. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming to this event. This is really a really special thing that we're really excited to have going forth year after year. I'm speaking on behalf of the CHC leadership, which includes Doctors Laura Gottlieb and Alyssa Epple. And I really want to thank Dina Frey for all the work that she did putting this together, along with Jennifer Taggart and Cherie Rivera. They were instrumental in getting this event off the ground. So Nancy established the Center for Health and Community in 1998. And this predated our collective appreciation for understanding the issues of health equity and social determinants. The mission of the CHC is to advance individual and population health through teaching and research that spans basic, clinical, and translational science centered on the social and behavioral drivers of health and health equity. Over the past 25 years, the CHC has served as a beacon for social and behavioral scientists at UCSF. Research conducted under the CHC umbrella has fostered wide recognition of the social determinants of health and helped expand our scope and depth of research in this area, all with Nancy's leadership pushing it along. The CHC has served as a center of gravity for researchers, practitioners, and policymakers committed to understanding health and health equity. Through Nancy's leadership, the CHC has served as a home for research spanning multiple levels of analysis, including work on biological mechanisms through which stress and social adversity impacts health, particularly in pregnancy, as well as examining and evaluating the social determinants measures in the electronic health record, as well as evaluating policy programs such as the recent ban on sugar-sweetened beverages on our campus and in other health systems. Nancy has and continues to be our North Star, emphasizing rigor in all areas of research, teaching, and service, and is an ardent advocate for the work that matters, work that will truly move the needle to improve population health and well-being. And as the CHC continues to thrive over the next 25 years, we will continue to strive towards transdisciplinary science, taking on complex problems of the world that demand complex and varied expertise and the CHC will continue to be a space to tackle these opportunities and challenges together. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be part of the CHC. Nancy, you're so surrounded by love right now in this audience. It's very moving to be here. And for all of you, you can picture Nancy at home right now at her viewing party. She is with her husband, Arnie, her daughter, Sarah, her new baby granddaughter, Gemma, fresh to this world, and her one of her best friends, Wendy. Next, we're going to hear from another one of her closest friends, Claire Brindis. Claire is a distinguished emerita professor, pediatrics and health policy. She is the emerita director of the Phil Lee Institute for Health Policy Studies, and just a force of nature and love.
It brings me great joy and personal feelings that I get to briefly introduce to you Dr. Harvey Fineberg, who is our inaugural lecturer, as you know. Harvey is the president of the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation, and through his visionary leadership is leading the foundation to foster scientific discovery, advances in patient care, environmental conservation, and for us in the Bay Area, preservation of the San Francisco Bay Area. He previously served as president of the National Academy of Medicine, also as provost of Harvard University and dean of the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. Prior to joining the foundation, Dr. Fineberg's academic career was dedicated to a plethora of interrelated and pressing, complicated societal and health problems. His illuminating research, many books and articles, and leadership contributions to the field of health policy, medical decision-making, global health, medical technology assessment, vaccine evaluation and use, pandemic response, and the dissemination of medical innovations. I could go on, but I want to listen to Harvey. This work, this body of work, continues to shape policymakers and many other stakeholders in their conceptualization and strategic directions. Dr. Fineberg continues to be at the cutting edge for his influential thinking and is sought for his wise counsel and insights throughout the world. When the selection committee worked with Nancy to identify the special inaugural speaker, clearly Dr. Fineberg was everyone's top choice, particularly Nancy's. And even AI could not have come up with a better candidate or a better choice. I present to you Dr. Harvey Fineberg.
Thank you so much, Claire, for that overly generous introduction. It's such a privilege to be here. Sam, Talmadge, Lisa, Julia, Elisa, friends. The subject that I am talking about today on social determinants of health is a very familiar one to this audience. In fact, I would submit that many of you are much more qualified than I to speak on this subject. But I can assure you that no one could take up this assignment with greater enthusiasm, affection, admiration, and love for the extraordinary individual who is the namesake for this talk, Nancy Adler. Julia, you're your mother's daughter, as is Sarah, which is high praise indeed. I know your father must have had something to do with it. But Arnie, if you're there, I have to tell you, we all know you married up big time. Trust me, I understand the condition very well. you're one lucky guy, and you knew it and always have known it, as have all of us. There's nothing that I could add to what you've heard that would convince you that Nancy is the most extraordinary leader intellectually, humanly, and personally. She's touched so many lives in such direct and indirect ways, including my own, which I'll take a moment to say a few words about as well. We've heard a little bit about Nancy's role here at the university from its leaders, but I would ask you, Talmadge, Sam especially, did you ever ask Nancy Adler to do anything that she did not do? Because if you look at her record of contributions to this institution, it's hard to imagine anyone who could match the depth and continuity of effort that she has put in at every level to improve the quality of everyone's experience, students, faculty, and staff here at the university. And when you think about what she's meant for the work of foundations and her leadership of the MacArthur Network for socioeconomic status and health, which, as has been mentioned, she led from the beginning. And through that network, introduced a new recognition of the importance of the connection between the biology and the social experience as influences on health. And through that work, established the MacArthur Ladder, which I know is familiar to all of you in this audience, as an extraordinary example of powerful and simple, clear and compelling as a tool to aid in the understanding of risk for illness and one's own perception of where you stand on the social hierarchy. That work alone would be enough to leave for Nancy a lasting recognition in the field. But it barely begins to demarcate the range and depth of her contributions. I had the great good fortune to work with Nancy through the Robert Wood Johnson Health and Society Scholars Program. And I have to say, tickled to see here a number of the scholars progressing, contributing in their careers. I know very much in the way Nancy would have dreamed you could and would. Nancy was not only the leader of the program that was here at UCSF with Berkeley, but she was also always the quiet, yet firm, effective voice at every table of discussion, deliberation about the program, its strengths, what we needed to fix, where we needed to go. You've heard a little bit about her participation at the National Academy of Medicine. I can tell you that she received the David Rawls Medal in the year 2010, which is awarded to a member for extraordinary and exceptional leadership, typically of a study at the National Academies. But if you look back at what Nancy was contributing to the National Academies as a study leader, as a member of committees, as part of report review, participating at every stage of so many studies, it's very difficult to discern what exactly, which one was the reason for this recognition. There were so many that would have qualified her. And that was before she became a member of the Council of the National Academy of Medicine in 2011, where I had a chance, again, with great pleasure, to work with Nancy directly. Her contributions to institutions was only a faint reflection of her intellectual leadership in so many fields. She was co-author of the first textbook in health psychology, as we have heard. She led in the founding of this center. She introduced to the medical community the key concepts of social determinants of health early, before it was accepted. Social determinants for a long time were ignored until they became obvious. And they became obvious because of the work of Nancy and others who were contributing at that time. Her earliest contributions were in the field of reproductive health and the reactions of women after abortion and the attitudes toward abortion. And she was recognized for this work by the American Psychological Association, awarded again, totally different base of fields. And this is all before she got deeply involved in the development of so many novel introductions to social determinants that are reflected in the work of her colleagues and students. And Alyssa, you're a prime example of one who has both benefited and contributed beyond what Nancy introduced. When Claire wrote to me about this opportunity, she described in one of her communications that the word that comes to her mind about Nancy is reflected in a part of the hymn that is said at the Jewish Passover Seder celebration in the Haggadah, the book that is read that night, which is recounting each of the blessings that God bestowed on his chosen people, one after another. And after each blessing, the refrain is dayenu in Hebrew, which means it would have sufficed, it was enough. And yet there was another blessing to follow, and then one blessing after that, and yet another blessing, on and on, dayenu. It would have been enough. And for Nancy, any of it would have been enough. But I have to say, Nancy, I love you, but honestly, you make me feel like a sluggard. How did you do all of these things in such an elegant and accomplished and loving way over so many years? Maybe she'll tell us the secret. Maybe Julia has the special sauce, and we'll learn eventually. I wanted to share with you a figure that is derived from PubMed about the number of publications that use the word social determinants of health over time. If you go back to the 1970s, there were a few individuals like Vicente Navarro. Some of you may know his work. But I would say in general, the arguments advanced in the pre-1980s were more ideologically based, grounded in conviction more than in evidence. And it really wasn't, in my mind, until the Whitehall studies of 1987, the first one where Michael Marmot led in the investigation, that really laid out in a careful, systematic, scientifically based, and compelling way the evidence that socioeconomic status, in that case of British bureaucrats, really was a strong predictor of their health outcomes and their health status. Now, Nancy later actually worked with Michael, as many of you know, to demonstrate that it was the subjective assessment of one's own status that was even more powerful as a determinant than any objective measure. And this notion of looking creatively to where the evidence takes you is a hallmark of Nancy's work throughout her career. Nancy was also instrumental in helping the NIH. She was on the Director's Advisory Council. I think she may be the only health psychologist ever to be invited to serve on that, in that role. About a decade ago in 2010, there was an institute stood up as part of the Affordable Care Act, which was the National Institute of Minority Health and Health Disparities. And in this program, Nancy and many others helped in shaping what would be the agenda. And a few years ago, the leaders from the Institute articulated what they saw and what they had gathered from so many others. What would be the directions of work now needed for examining social determinants of health? And the first area they emphasize is understanding more fundamentally the systemic drivers of social determinants, the far upstream facts of life and conditions of being that determine where one's future can go. They also stressed the idea of embodiment, which is an expression that I'm not sure Nancy used, but is reflected continuously in her work at MacArthur, in her research, in her teaching, which is how exactly do the social experience of life get embedded within the health and biology of the individual? What is it that translates? What are the mechanisms that translate those life experiences into health or illness? Something that many of you indeed are working on. Third point that they raised is, why are there individual differences in the response to the same social conditions? What is it that may be protective as well as dangerous or a risk factor for future health? They raise this question, which I think is fascinating for the future, about small area variation. Why is it that communities that otherwise seem similar may have very different life experience in health? What is it that makes that difference? And I'll come back to that in just a moment. They talked about the many challenging methodologic questions in pursuing this research, grounded particularly in the complexity of the systems, which are part of the social determinants translated into health, and partly because of the long time horizon that often is necessary in order to properly understand the consequences over time. And in general, they urge moving from observation and descriptive studies to research that would be hypothesis testing of the mechanisms. I think that they are right in all of these, but I think we can go further. And I'd like to offer just a few suggestions of possibilities. First, taking fuller advantage of complexity science and artificial intelligence. Complexity science, which has particularly been developed at the Santa Fe Institute, examines systems as a whole and the way their parts relate over time to produce a given state of the world or state of the system. And there are many insights from this line of work that may be relevant and yet to be fully applied to the questions of social determinants of health. Artificial intelligence, which we know is permeating so many aspects of medicine and healthcare, is also a tool that may be deployed increasingly effectively to examine, elucidate, and detect unexpected linkages in the social and other determinants of health. This is just a sample figure from the data set and illustration collected by the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, which has assembled in an open database extensive information on many aspects of the social condition of census tracts, counties throughout America. This is a treasure trove waiting for analytic methods, including artificial intelligence, to continue to examine not only for description, but for hypothesis generation, which is going to be, I think, a burgeoning opportunity. Secondly, I want to reemphasize the importance of looking at resilience factors. It's not enough, in my estimation, to talk about the general conditions which lead a disproportionate number of people in that condition to experience health problems, illness. Invert the question. Why do some people experiencing the same conditions not develop the same levels of illness, the same disability over time? What are the factors that can be protected? Because that is the way to generate intervention hypotheses. Hypotheses of what could be done to reinforce, strengthen, make more available, utilize, deploy more widely resilience promoting factors rather than only admire the problem, what we can do about it. Third, the opportunity in what forever has been the mind-body problem philosophically and very pragmatically today introduces deeper opportunities for understanding, reconciling, and connecting the experience of our mind, including our spiritual lives, and the impact on our health, our body. This is an area that touches at one side on mindfulness studies and understanding of ways in which we can get in touch more fully with our own selves, but also extends to the question of biology and experience. What are the full array of connectors? We have begun to explore, expose, but this is an extremely promising area for future research. I believe that the next phase of work on determinants must emphasize intervention that would alter the life course of illness. If we fail to apply the lessons of what has been learned, it's not enough. We have to apply those lessons. We have to design interventions that will document, demonstrate, and prove or disprove the hypothesis of what can be done to improve the life course and life chances of individuals, regardless of their circumstances. And finally, I want to just refer to what I describe as the grand unification theory in health. You know, in physics, there's a grand unification theory of forces, trying to bring together gravity, strong and weak atomic forces, and electromagnetic forces into a singular integrated theory and understanding. For health, I think there's an analogous grand unification that is possible and imaginable between the social environment, the physical environment, the genetic endowment, the metabolomic makeup, our microbiome, every aspect from the inside out and from the outside in a unified understanding of what promotes or inhibits better health. And working toward that grand unification, to me, is one of the ultimate objectives for work on the social determinants of health. Now, we've talked about the modern efforts to understand this field, but I'd like to suggest that historically, the idea of choices we make and how they impact our lives and health is not really a new idea. Pope Gregory I, Gregory the Great, articulated 7 deadly sins, which he posited were the source of ill in the world, as well as for us. And the first was lust. Second, sloth. I know some of you are thinking, maybe. The third is gluttony. The fourth was greed. The sixth was wrath. It's fifth, isn't it? The fifth is wrath. The sixth is envy. What was the seventh? Who has the seventh? What's the seventh deadly sin? Some say it's actually the master sin that drives all the others. What goeth before a fall? Pride. Pride is the seventh deadly sin. Now, that was in the 6th century. It took 700 years before St. Augustine postulated 7 heavenly virtues opposite the 7 deadly sins: humility, charity, chastity, gratitude, temperance, patience, and diligence. Now, he posited these because they were the resilience factor for each of the risk factors on the other side of the ledger. So, what counteracts lust? Chastity, perhaps. What counteracts sloth? Diligence, action. What counteracts gluttony? Temperance, you think? What counteracts greed? Got to be charity. What about wrath? Probably patience. Envy. Maybe gratitude. And how about pride? Humility. 7 heavenly virtues to counteract 7 deadly sins. So I want to ask you, what are public health's 7 deadly sins today? I'm going to take a few ancient ones because they're great starters: sloth, gluttony, and greed. Would we all agree? They qualify. But what else? So all of you who are not yet double tasking, and everyone at home, if you could join Slido, I'm hoping this will work. Everybody have a chance to start and see the code 3110128. Everybody ready? Okay. What is your choice for deadly sin? By the way, if you're at home, you should be able to do this too. It's going to be hard to settle on just 7, apparently. We have quite a few things to work on that are causing problems for health. Okay, but it's still more coming in. Poverty, racism, greed, capitalism, inequity, fear, ignorance, misogyny, stigma. We could go around trauma, inertia, illegitimate power. These are all part of the problem. Okay. Now let's counteract those deadly sins with public health virtues. What are the virtues beyond temperance, patience, and diligence, which I'll add in? So let's see what the living virtues are. I think this should, yeah, now we'll get virtues. I'm pleased to report we have almost as many virtues as we had sins, so maybe there is hope. As we look at this list and you see love, empathy, compassion, collaboration, equity, who comes to mind? Our hero, our beloved Nancy. It's such an honor to be part of this community, to share these thoughts with you, and to be in awe of all that you are and have done. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
That was an unbelievably moving, fitting transition. I think you surprised us all. And then, of course, this is what Nancy embodies. Thank you, Harvey, so much. We have time for one question. And then I hope all of us can move upstairs and share our thoughts, share our warm welcomes with Nancy through the video, and meet each other and give Julia a hug, and our amazing leaders and administration who have been such steadfast, compassionate support for this work at one of the most powerful institutions on earth that couldn't be more reductionist before Nancy came. So I am going to ask for a raise of hand, and to be equitable, I'm including all of you at home. And so we have a Zoom chat and we have embodied people in person. I know it's a little intimidating, but Harvey loves Q&A, so let's give him at least one.
So thank you, Harvey. Out of the ballpark. So where do we begin?
Well, I'll need time for rebuttal. Thank you, Claire. This is a moment, for reflection. We look back, but knowing Nancy, I know she would really want us to be looking ahead. She would want us to be attuned to what the real problems are. She would want us to adhere to science. She would want us to be creative. She would want us to be all those qualities of kind, compassion, and collaborative that she exemplified. But there's another quality to Nancy that I always felt, which is that Nancy was a perpetual learner. She was a student her entire life. She was a student of her students, of her colleagues. She was a student of the world and evidence. She was an observer, an interpreter, and a leader, and always a learner. So, thank you all.
For those of you on Zoom, feel free to stay the extra minute and chat in a message to Nancy. We will save the Zoom. We will also send out her personal Gmail if you want to send a note to her. And for everyone here, of course, video. Thank you so much, Nancy. We got a picture, Claire and I got a picture of you in your living room with your beloved family watching all of us. And we are just sending you so much love and gratitude. Thank you.